Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Unit 3 meeting where we will be discussing the recommendation memo. Let's get started with an overview of the assignment and your role as the writer. You are working as an intern at Hold Tight, so that's going to be your perspective when writing this, meaning that you know that you're writing upward to your boss, Eliza Witten, and you want to make a really good impression because it's often possible for internships to turn into long-term jobs. So if you were asked in a real-world scenario to provide this type of recommendation as an intern, you would want to take that opportunity very seriously because it could play out into something larger for you. Hold Tight is a small manufacturing firm. They only have about 120 employees, and 25 of them over the last several years have begun working remotely. Your purpose as the writer is to recommend an app to your boss, Eliza Witten, and you want to recommend an app that's going to allow those 25 remote workers to communicate better with each other and with the other employees who are still working on site. And this is because Witten has noticed that using text, email, and phone is not effective. Things are getting lost, deadlines are being missed, and there's a lot of miscommunication. So she wants everything in one spot. That is why she looked at the program Basecamp 3, which houses documents and communication, and you can set up tasks and deadlines and all sorts of basically organizational tools that would be beneficial for a situation like this. Before she goes forward with Basecamp 3 and spends money on that type of app, she is asking for you to go ahead and take a look at the other apps that are out there that might be similar and might even be better. And then she's asking you to make a recommendation on how she should move forward. So, what do you need to do? One, it's pretty clear, write a recommendation memo to Witten. Number two, within that memo, you have to recommend a specific app. A lot of times, students write the memo where all it is comparing Basecamp 3 with the other app that they chose without a strong recommendation. But the whole purpose here is to give a recommendation, not to let Witten decide after she reads your analysis or your evaluation, but to tell her what you recommend and why. Why is number three. So you're going to support your recommendation by discussing and evaluating features of both apps. So Basecamp 3, which is the one that she already has seen, and then any other similar project communication based app that you think might be a good idea for the company. You can recommend Basecamp 3. You don't have to recommend the other app that you choose, but you do have to thoroughly evaluate both of them. So, number four, what strategies can you use to accomplish this type of memo? First, you want to select your criteria. If you start with Basecamp 3, and the reason why you want to start there is because Witten has already said that she likes it, you'll want to play with the app and make a list of what its key features are, which ones are the most important and relevant in this particular situation. And then you'll choose 4 to 6 of those criteria and organize them from most to least important. And in doing so, you're really starting to build out your memo. The criteria themselves can be used as your descriptive headings for each section. And essentially, if you create your criteria and make some notes about how well Basecamp 3 stacks up to the criteria that you've set, then you'll have gotten a really good start. So once you have reviewed Basecamp and you've decided which criteria you're going to use to evaluate it, you will find another similar app. There's a ton of them. Just Google apps like Basecamp and, play around with a couple of them and then choose the one that is actually a competitor to Basecamp 3. So don't choose a terrible app or something that's not meant for communication and documents and scheduling and tasks and deadlines. So, like a Google Doc is not a comparable app to Basecamp 3. Believe it or not, I have had people suggest using Google Docs. So you want to think in terms of a well-structured app to compare to Basecamp 3. You want to see, does it have most of the same key features as Basecamp 3? Does it have any additional features that Witten might like? When you're thinking about the criteria, it is connected to the features. However, features is just really one of the bigger criteria that you can then break down. So you might have features like storage space, pricing, the amount of users that can log on at the same time and have an active profile, things like that. So you'll want to choose criteria that are common between both of the apps so that you can evaluate each app against the criteria. When you're setting up your memo, you want to be really direct. This is not the type of document where you're going to be indirect and kind of beating around the bush. Right there in the first paragraph, Witten should know which app you're recommending and why. So just a summary, right? It doesn't have to be a whole long explanation of why, but she's going to know everything she needs to know in the first paragraph. And then if she has time or if she wants to understand how you arrived at your evaluation or at your recommendation, she can read the rest of the memo, which then unpacks all of the evaluation against the criteria. Use your criteria as headings. That's just the easy, smart way to do this assignment. And obviously, make sure that you're including evaluations of each app for each criteria. This is how your recommendation to go with whichever app you chose is supported. You can use a ranking or a rating system. So, for example, let's say cost is the criteria, and really everyone should have cost as one of their 4 to 6 criteria because all companies care about cost. So, if cost is one of your criteria and you are writing about Basecamp's cost, you might give it, say, a 3 out of 5 stars. And then with the second app that you choose, maybe that one is a little bit cheaper. So you give it 4 out of 5 stars. And then in the end, you can add up all the stars that each app earned. And then you kind of have a mathematical, more objective support for your recommendation. You don't have to do that, but some people, myself included, find it easier to justify something when there's hard numbers involved as opposed to just using words to convince someone about the decision. And make sure that you're writing concisely. That means that after you write your memo, you should go back through and edit and revise at a sentence level, working on trimming up and tightening up your sentences so that they are direct, concise, and to the point, and there's no fluff left. A few tips on writing. So, this is really the first assignment where you're writing from scratch and there's a lot of writing involved. Definitely just start writing. Don't force an introduction. I always like to say start with what you know. Students oftentimes like to make themselves write an introduction, like they can't move forward without the introduction. But that's really not the case. It's actually much easier to just start with whatever you're currently thinking about in terms of the memo. So if you think it's easiest to write about the cost or easiest to write about the storage space, just start there and then build forward and build backward, and it will all come together. Don't edit your work while you're writing. Allow yourself to get the ideas out onto paper without filtering or worrying about if they're good or not. And then you can go back through and edit. It may upfront seem like it's taking more time, but in the end, it really doesn't take more time and it allows for the flow of ideas to be unfiltered, which really can create much, much stronger content. You do want to use headers and keep everything organized so that it's easy for Witten to navigate the document. Don't forget that you can use bolding, underlining, italicizing to highlight key ideas. And make sure that you're using short paragraphs. 8 lines is the max, 6 is better. And varied sentence and paragraph lengths do make for better writing. So there's a common misconception that consistency or uniformity is better. So where each paragraph is about the same length or each sentence even is in similar length, but that does not read well when sentences are all parallel lengths and it doesn't look nice on the paper when everything is consistent. It's not visually interesting. People prefer to see paragraphs of different lengths and headings and bullet points and things like that, just so that the document looks like it's inviting and easy to get through rather than a whole series of paragraphs. So let's just take a look really quick at some of the key grading points for this assignment, which is due on Sunday, February 19th. Make sure that your memo is arranged by descriptive headings and subheadings if necessary. Make sure that you're stating clear criteria for your analysis and comparison. Effectively apply this criteria to the analysis of the two apps. So essentially, your opening might read something like this. After comparing Basecamp 3 to app ABC, I've determined that app ABC is the best app for Hold Tight to move forward with. I made this decision based off of both apps' storage space, cost, communication capabilities, and document file system, something like that. So that could be your opening. And then you go on to break down those criteria that you listed right there in the first paragraph. Again, that clear recommendation being provided right up front. And this assignment also requires that you bring in screenshots of the two apps. And we've learned how to work with images and text and how to text wrap and how to caption. So you're going to take all those skills and use them in this memo. So when you're thinking about what screenshots to use, make sure that you're choosing screenshots of the apps that actually aid in Witten's understanding of what you're writing. Don't just take a picture of the Basecamp logo and slap that on. You're using the images to help explain your evaluation of the apps, so make them relevant. And that wraps it up. So if you have any questions about the recommendation memo, you can reach out to me via email. And I look forward to seeing everybody's work when this one's done. Have a great day, guys.